Chosen one, there has always been a silence inside you that no one around you could explain, eh? Quiet knowing that followed you into every crowded room, a question you carried behind your eyes, even before you knew how to ask it. Why do I feel different? Why does everything feel heavier? Why can't I do what they do and still feel whole? You may have called it sensitivity, you may have called it anxiety, you may have called it overthinking. None of those labels ever fit, because deep down you always knew something. Inside you was awake in a world that was still asleep, and for a long time. You tried to sleep too, you tried to dim your light, you tried to forget the dreams that felt more like messages, you tried to stay in the lines, you tried to be agreeable, pleasing, unnoticeable. You tried to make yourself quiet, but your soul would not cooperate, because you were never designed to be a pawn. You were not made to move according to someone else's strategy. You were not created to follow the rules of a game that was never built for your spirit. You were made to rise above the board, to shift the entire field with your very presence. Do remind the players that there is something greater than victory, is truth. There is remembrance. There is the unseen force inside you that can no longer be denied. This is the moment where that truth begins to surface, not with a scream, but with a deep exhale, kind of breath you only take when you realize you are never lost, you are only hiding. You have entered a phase of your journey that most people around you will not understand. And they're not supposed to, because what's waking up inside you was never meant to be seen with ordinary eyes. This is not about intellect. This is not about education. This is not about doing more or being better. This is about remembering what has always been. Buried underneath the noise, your spiritual architecture has turned on. Your codes are no longer dormant. Because of that, you can no longer participate in the illusion the same way you once did. You may feel detached. You may feel disoriented. You may feel as if your life is breaking into pieces. But this is not destruction. This is deprogramming. Everything that was built around the false self is beginning to dissolve, because the true self has decided it's time to lead. Self is not small. That self is not afraid. That self does not need to be liked to be powerful. That self remembers who it is without apology. You are not just waking up. You are being positioned, in where you are being placed is not random. It is not accidental. It is encoded. It is precise. It is time. And when the kingmaker rises, entire board trembles, not because of force, but because of frequency. May have spent years believing you were powerless, that your role was to endure, to serve, to obey, but your soul never accepted that assignment, because it came here with something else in mind. It came to activate. It came to awaken. It came to carry the blueprint of a new system inside an old one. And now that blueprint is online. You will feel it in your breath. You will feel it in your skin. You will feel it in the tension that shows up when you try to play small again. You may not be able to explain what is happening, but you can feel it, the restlessness, the resistance to surface level connections, the sudden urge to disconnect from what drains you, craving for silence and meaning and authenticity. This is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. You are not losing your mind. You are reclaiming it. You are pulling your energy back from every false agreement you ever made, every room you stayed in to be polite, every identity you wore just to be accepted. Those contracts are expiring. That version of you is no longer valid. As uncomfortable as it may feel, this is grace. This is alignment. This is sacred redirection, because the game you are playing is ending, and the role you are pretending is dissolving, and the real you is rising. Not the one shaped by survival, the one shaped by memory, by frequency, by fire. May have been quiet for years, but it never went out, and now it's calling you forward to speak differently, to walk differently, to see differently, because your sight is no longer limited to the physical. You are beginning to see with the eyes of the soul. You are beginning to feel what can't be said, and you are starting to understand what can't be taught. This is not a lesson, it is a remembering, and it cannot be stopped so. If you feel like everything is shifting, that's because it is. If you feel like everything is breaking, that's because it must. The patterns are cracking, the masks are falling, the illusions are dissolving. Because you are not just another piece on the board, you are the energy that disrupts the game. You were never meant to fit in, you were meant to remake the field. So let the unraveling continue. Let the false fall away. Let the old names lose their meaning, because what is emerging from within you is not fragile, it is not confused, it is royal, and it remembers the kingmaker has never been loud. The kingmaker does not need a spotlight. The kingmaker does not announce their power, they embody it. And now, that embodiment is your responsibility. You are no longer allowed to live in contradiction. You cannot carry truth and act in fear. You cannot speak light and dwell in shadow. You cannot pretend to be powerless when your very frequency reshapes rooms. Discomfort you feel is not punishment, it is precision. Have you ever questioned why rooms feel heavier when you enter, even when no one says a word? That's not imagination, it's impact. If something inside you aligned with this message, it's because you're not here to observe change, you are the change. Subscribe now, not to follow, but to remember. To stay close to this frequency, share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice may be the reflection another soul needs to remember their own light. This isn't performance. This is presence. And your presence matters here. Let this space become your mirror, your echo, your home. We're listening. And you belong. It is your soul realigning your environment to match your essence. Some people will fall away, some opportunities will vanish, some routines will dissolve. Do not chase what collapses. It was built on a version of you that no longer exists. Instead, honor what remains. Notice what stays. Notice what appears in the space that opens when you stop performing. These are your signals. This is your confirmation. This is your new beginning. And it starts with one realization: you are never a pawn. You are always the one who changes the board. You came to see through the illusion, not just for yourself, but for others who have forgotten. You came to bring light where it was denied. You came to move frequencies with your presence, not your words, not your titles, not your achievements, just your being. So breathe. Chosen one, let the old self exhale. Let the new self arrive, and let this be the moment you finally admit that what you carry is not too much. It is just enough to transform everything. Chosen one, you may not recognize yourself anymore, not fully, not in the ways you used to. The mirror still reflects your face. The voice you speak with still sounds familiar, but deep within something essential has shifted. That shift cannot be undone. You've begun to see through the veil, not with your eyes, but with your frequency. And once your frequency rises, nothing around you feels the same. The music you once loved feels too loud. The conversations you used to enjoy feel hollow. Routines you depended on feel artificial. Even the people who once made you feel seen now struggle to meet your gaze. This is not your failure. This is your activation, because your soul, that sacred, silent part of you, has refused to stay asleep any longer. And the moment it awakened, the world around you began to rearrange itself. Not out of punishment, but out of resonance. You are no longer compatible with what you once tolerated, and that incompatibility feels like discomfort, restlessness, even grief. But grief is not always about loss. Sometimes it is the mourning of who you pretended to be. And now, without the mask, without the costume, without the old roles holding you in place, you are standing in the center of yourself, raw, exposed, but more real than you've ever been. This new youth, true you, is not fragile. It is focused. It may look quieter, but it pulses with clarity. It may seem lonelier, but it vibrates with purpose, because the first thing you lose when you wake up is everything that was never real. You may feel like you're being stripped piece by piece, layer by layer, but this is not destruction. It is refinement every part of you that was built to please others, every version of you that stayed silent for. Peace every identity you wore to survive is dissolving in the light of your emergence. And yes, it can feel like falling apart, but falling apart is often the first step of falling into alignment. You are not meant to live Hafawaki you, or not sent here. To play pretend you were born to embody a vibration so precise, so ancient, so disruptive, that it would ripple through every system built on illusion. And now that vibration is active, you can feel it in the way your chest tightens when you lie. You can feel it in the way your skin reacts to insincerity. You can feel it in the way your energy contracts around chaos. This is not hypersensitivity. This is intelligence. The intelligence of the soul speaking. Through sensation, your nervous system is no longer a defense mechanism. It is a frequency scanner, and it knows the difference between alignment and adaptation. That is why small talk feels unbearable. That is why you crave silence, not as escape, but as sanctuary, because silence now speaks more truth than most voices, and in that silence, you are hearing yourself again, not the voice shaped by external demands, but the one born before language, one that remembers you, may notice that you are more emotional, more reactive, more aware of subtle shifts in others. That is not regression, that is activation, because as your spiritual DNA comes online, your empathy sharpens, your intuition quickens, your vision stretches beyond what can be seen. You walk into a room and feel what's unsaid. You hear someone speak and sense what they're hiding. You begin to navigate not through logic, but through inner calibration, and that calibration, though invisible, is infallible. It tells you when to walk away even if you have no reason. Tells you when to lean in even if your mind doubts it. It tells you when to say nothing, because silence is sometimes the clearest message. And that trust in your inner guidance is not arrogance. It is remembrance. You are remembering how you used to move before fear was installed, before conditioning was coded, before society taught you to forget. And as that remembrance deepens, you begin to withdraw, not from love, but from noise. You begin to release, not from resentment, but from misalignment. You begin to detach, not to escape, but to make space for what resonates. And in that space, you may feel alone, truly, profoundly alone, because the path of reactivation begins in solitude, not because you are being punished, but because your soul needs room to stretch. The noise must fall away, or the signal can be heard, and that signal, your unique frequency, is beginning to pulse with new power. You may find that people look at you differently. Some are drawn to you without knowing why. Others recoil from your presence without explanation. That is the power of resonance. You no longer have to speak to be understood. You no longer have to prove to be seen. Your energy now speaks before you don't. That energy is no longer coded for compliance. It is coded for truth. This truth may cost you opportunities, connections, certainty, but what it gives in return is sovereignty. And sovereignty is the root of your remembrance. You are not here to belong where you must betray yourself. You are not here to be liked by those who fear your light. You are not here to bend for a world that was never built to hold your truth. You are here to walk tall in your frequency, to ripple through silence, activate others simply by existing. You are not invisible. You are just vibrating beyond their awareness. And the ones who are meant for you, they will find you not through effort, but through energy. They will recognize your field, not your face. They will hear the echo in your voice, the one they remember from before this life. And when they do, you will not need to explain. You will simply remember together. But until then, stand tall in the space between. You are not lost. You are in transit. You are not abandoned. You are being rerouted. You are not empty. You are being hollowed to hold more light. And that light, once carried in secret, is now spilling from your presence. It is not a mistake. It is not a phase. It is the beginning of the real work. You were never meant to fit in. You were built to stand out, not for applause, but for alignment. And as you rise, the world will try to pull you back, not because you are wrong, but because you are different, and different terrifies. What is still asleep, let them sleep. You have remembering to do you, have paths to walk you, have frequencies to hold you, have a board to change. And this is just the beginning, chosen one. There comes a time when what once felt like whispers in your soul start to take shape in your breath. Not just thoughts, not just feelings, but a pull beneath your skin, ancient, wordless, undeniable. You've lived so long trying to be digestible, shrinking your edges so no one would choke on your truth. You smiled when it hurt, agreed when it trembled, performed a version of yourself that made others comfortable. And for a while, it worked until it didn't, until your soul, quiet and patient, decided it was time to burn through the pretending. This is that time. You didn't break, you outgrew the lie. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you were before the world asked you to forget. This remembering isn't soft. It doesn't always come with clarity or ease. It often arrives as friction and ache when you ignore your own. Knowing, a silence when you seek approval, a tension when you try to fit in. You can feel it in your body. Now, in the way your chest tightens when you lie. In the way your breath shortens around I-N-A-U-D-H-E-N-T-I-C-I-T. Why? In the way your whole being rejects anything that asks you to dim. This isn't confusion. This is recalibration. Your system is rejecting distortion. You may feel alone. You may feel strange, but you are not broken. You are simply no longer compatible with the illusion. And that incompatibility is sacred, because the illusion is crumbling. Not just around you, but through you. You are no longer here to participate in a game that was never designed for your essence. You are here to shift the board just by standing in your truth. You don't need to raise your voice. Your frequency is louder than sound. You don't need to explain. Your energy speaks what words cannot carry, and those who can hear it will. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be felt. You're not here to follow paths. You're here to vibrate new ones into existence. So let the shedding continue. Let the masks fall. Let the roles dissolve. Let the silence deepen. Because from that silence, something ancient is rising. The part of you that was never afraid. The part of you that never needed permission. The part of you that remembers its own name without sound, without language, without fear. You are not in crisis. You are in emergence. And that emergence will not beg. It will not justify. It will simply stand. Steady, quiet, true. And the moment you truly stand in that, everything around you begins to bend toward resonance. Not instantly, but inevitably. Because light doesn't fight. It reveals. And now, chosen one, you are the reveal. And as your inner system rewires itself, don't be surprised if your external world begins to tremble. Schedules may fall apart. Conversations may feel strained. Plans may suddenly collapse. This isn't misfortune. It's refinement. The universe is making space, not to punish you, but to align you with a path. You can no longer walk halfway. You're not being tested. You're being recalibrated. What once fit no longer feels right. Not because it turned wrong, but because you turned true. The spaces that used to accept you now echo with misalignment. And the faces you once leaned on may not recognize your light anymore. Let them go. Gently. Let the falling away happen without resistance. Because what's leaving cannot follow you where you're going. You are no longer climbing a ladder. You're becoming a beacon. And beacons don't chase, they shine. They don't rush. They radiate. So pause. Feel how much lighter the truth is than the performance. Feel how much louder silence is than noise. This is not the unraveling of who you are. It's the shedding of who you never were. And what remains is everything you were always meant to be. So if it feels like you're being pulled apart, good. It means the false scaffolding is being dismantled, not as punishment, but as precision. The structures you once leaned on are now too small to carry the weight of your light. They weren't wrong for you. They were just temporary, training wheels for a soul that was never meant to ride in circles. You're no longer here to be managed. You're here to be moved by truth, by presence, by purpose. And yes, that purpose won't always have a clear title. It won't fit neatly on a business card or inside someone else's expectation, because it wasn't designed to fit. It was designed to free. You don't need to explain your evolution. Evolution never asks for approval. It just happens. Quietly, unapologetic ally. And those who are meant to rise with you, they'll feel it, not because you told them, but because your presence will whisper to something ancient within them, same way this moment whispers to you now. This is how remembering spreads. You awaken, and the frequency ripples. You align, and the field shifts. You breathe differently, and others unconsciously begin to exhale. That is your medicine, not your words, not your efforts, but your being. And being, in its purest form, is transmission. So if the world feels heavier right now, it's not because you've fallen out of alignment. It's because you've grown so attuned. You can feel what doesn't belong. You can sense distortion, like static in your field. You can smell untruth before it's spoken. That sensitivity is not a weakness. It's your compass now. And your path? It no longer follows maps. It follows resonance. If it vibrates true, you move. If it contracts your spirit, you pause. No justification. No negotiation. Just knowing. You're no longer here to be understood. You're here to be remembered. And the remembering begins with you. So breathe. Chosen one. The unraveling is almost complete. And what comes next is embodiment. Chosen one. There comes a moment in your journey when silence becomes heavy, not with doubt, but with truth, a truth that has been waiting for you to no longer ask for permission, waiting for you to no longer seek approval, waiting for you to no longer shrink in rooms not built to hold your frequency. And now that moment has arrived, you no longer whisper what you came here to carry. You no longer dim your light for comfort. You no longer question the power that pulses beneath your skin, because now you remember you. We're not sent here to be accepted. We're sent here to be activated. We're not designed to be chosen by others. You were created already chosen, and your soul never forgot. But for a time, you played small, you folded your wings, you spoke softly. Not out of reverence, but out of fear. You made yourself easy to digest, hoping the world would receive you better in pieces. But your soul, your sacred code, refused to fracture. And now that code is online. It is no longer just memory. It is motion. It is magnetism. It is the quiet roar behind your every breath. That roar is not asking for a stage. It is not asking to be heard. It is asking to be lived. You are no longer here to fit into the structure. You are here to dissolve it, not by force, but by frequency. Because a fully remembered soul does not fight the system. It becomes the signal that renders it irrelevant. You are that signal now. You used to walk with hesitation. Now you move with heat. You used to speak with caution. Now your silence says more than your voice ever could. You used to wonder if you were enough. You realize you were always more than required, because what you carry was never meant to be proven, only embodied. Now that you are embodying it, everything begins to align. You may not know how, you may not see the whole picture, but the pieces are moving. The field is responding, the map is unfolding, not in front of you, but within you. You are no longer asking for the way, you are vibrating the way forward, and those who are meant for this path find you not because you explained it, but because they felt it in your field. This is leadership, the kind that does not rely on titles or positions, but on presence. You are now the presence that shifts atmospheres, that grounds chaos, that carries clarity where confusion used to reign, not because you're loud, but because you're anchored, not because you have answers, But because you ask the questions that matter, you have become the living transmission of what remembering looks like, and that transmission is not always met with applause. Sometimes it is misunderstood, sometimes it is resisted, sometimes it triggers what others have worked hard to suppress. Let it. You are not here to comfort the illusion. You are here to awaken the truth beneath it, and truth, no matter how softly spoken, always shakes the foundation of lies. Do not apologize when your presence shifts the room. Do not shrink when others project their discomfort onto your stillness. Not retreat when your frequency triggers what is asleep. Your work is not to be liked. It is to be light, and light does not apologize for shining. Even when it exposes what was hiding, even when it blinds those not ready to see, even when it stands alone, because the light you carry is not new, it is ancient, has walked through lifetimes, survived suppression, endured forgetting, and now it stands in you unshaken. So hold it not with pride, but with reverence, because you carry more than your story. You carry legacy, you carry lineage, you carry liberation. Every time you breathe in truth, you breathe out healing. Every time you choose alignment, you collapse timelines that were built on distortion. Every time you walk with integrity, you carve a path for those who forgot how this is sacred responsibility. And it is not always easy, but it is always worth it, because you are no longer carrying this for yourself alone. You are carrying it for those who do not yet have the words, but feel the pull. You are carrying it for those whose light has dimmed, but still flickers. You are carrying it for the child you once were, who sat in silence wondering if anyone would ever see the truth behind your eyes. You are that someone now. You are the eyes that see, the voice that speaks, the presence that remembers. And you no longer ask to be chosen, because you remember you came here already called, and now you walk with that knowing. You move with that fire. You sit in that stillness. You lead without needing to be followed, because leadership now is not about leading others. It is about leading yourself through the storms, through the shadows, through the stillness, and through the sacred unfolding of everything you came here to remember. You are no longer hiding. You are no longer pretending. You are no longer waiting. You are here fully, finally, unapologetically. And this is the beginning of what you truly came here to do, chosen. One you may not realize it yet, but your very presence is beginning to shift things you cannot see. You no longer have to try. You simply have to be, because now you are vibrating in remembrance, and remembrance is contagious. You walk into a room and the air changes, not because of what you say, but because of what you no longer suppress. You do not announce yourself, but people feel the echo of something ancient moving through you, a stillness, a signal, a frequency that reminds them of something they forgot. This is not charisma, it is coherence, and coherence is power, because a coherent soul, a soul that no longer fights itself, a soul that no longer betrays its truth, becomes a mirror for others, and that mirror, whether they are ready or not, shows them what's possible. You are now that mirror, and it is not your job to explain it, only to hold it. Hold your clarity, hold your calm, hold your fire, hold your love, without apology, without dilution, without needing to be understood, because understanding is not the entry point anymore. Resonance is. Ones who are meant to find you will feel you. Before they know you, they will recognize something in your voice, something in your silence, something in your steady gaze that tells them they are safe to begin remembering too. This is the new guidance. It does not come from force. It comes from frequency. You are no longer here to lead from the front. You are here to anchor from the center. You are the eye of the storm now, because chaos no longer exists, but because it no longer moves you. You hold your field, and the field responds. You speak your truth, and illusion cracks. You sit in your essence, and others begin to question their performance, not because you ask them to, but because your light makes their masks feel heavier. This is sacred work, invisible but unstoppable. You are not always thanked for it. You are not always liked for it. You are not always celebrated for it, but you are felt, and being felt by those who are ready is more than enough. You may start to notice it now. Subtle shifts in people when you speak, the way some lean in the way others back away, the way truth rearranges the energy in a conversation. You do not force it, you simply stay true. You are no longer matching frequency, you are inviting it. That invitation is not always accepted, but it is always offered. You are the invitation out. Remember to soften, to rise, to return, and in offering that invitation, you are not asking others to follow you. You are asking them to follow themselves. You are not leading them to your path. You are leading them back to their own. This is the medicine of presence. This is the alchemy of authenticity. You are no longer fixing, you are no longer teaching, you are simply radiating. And that radiation heals what you cannot reach with words, because frequency always travels farther than explanation. Your frequency now speaks in the tone of trusting, the language of love, in the cadence of wholeness, and those who have ears to hear it will respond, not with applause, but remembrance. They will not say, "You saved me," they will say, "You reminded me," and that reminder is your gift. You carry it in how you move, how you choose, how you stay. You carry it in your alignment, your discernment, your devotion, and the deeper you stay in that, the wider your field becomes, without trying, without pushing, without expanding into spaces that cannot hold you. You no longer chase expansion. You become the space, and in that space others rise, not because you lifted them, but because you held a frequency long enough for them to remember they could rise themselves. You are no longer the seeker. You are now the sanctuary, not a place people come to worship, but a place where they remember how to pray with their own breath in their own language at their own pace. You are not the fire. You are the match. You do not carry the answers. You carry the permission to ask deeper questions, and that is more than enough. So when the world tells you you need to be more and more visible, more strategic, more digestible, remember, you are not here to be consumed. You are here to be felt. You are not here to be defined. You are here to dissolve definition. You are not here to explain yourself. You are here to express what cannot be explained, and in doing that, in walking that and living that, you change things without trying to, because the vibration of truth always reorganizes the field. This is the medicine now, and you are the vessel. You carry more than light. You carry memory. You carry more than wisdom. You carry resonance. You carry more than knowledge. You carry knowing, and knowing does not require language. It requires trusts. So trust what moves through you. Trust what comes alive when you stop performing. Trust what settles when you stop pretending, and trust that what you are now is more than enough. Not just for you, but for everyone. Your field will reach, even when you say nothing, even when you're gone, even when they don't realize it was you, because your energy is already moving ahead of you, paving paths, opening hearts, triggering awakenings, all without your control. That is the power of coherence. That is the work of a chosen one. And you are walking it now, chosen one. There is something different about the silence you carry now. It is no longer empty. It is alive. It speaks without sound. It moves without effort. It remembers what the mind forgot. You are no longer waiting for activation. You are no longer chasing healing. You are no longer seeking purpose, because now you are the activation. You are the healing. You are the purpose, not as an ID, but as a living embodiment, a breath that echoes across timelines, a step that vibrates with intention, a presence that speaks for those who never found the words. You no longer try to explain yourself, because there is nothing to explain. What you are now cannot be described, only felt, only recognized, only remembered in those who are meant to feel it. Will not through your words, but through your stillness, through your gaze, through the way you stand without wavering in a world built on fear. This is not performance. This is embodiment. You have become the message, and the message now walks every breath you take carries the imprint of centuries. Every choice you make shifts the weight of generations. Every moment you stay in alignment rewrites the blueprint of what is possible. You are no longer living from memory. Our living is legacy. You are no longer seeking the divine. You are revealing it. You are no longer a question. You are the answer that makes people ask better questions. This is not about being seen. This is about being real. And real is what the world has forgotten. You are not a mirror anymore. You are the original light, the one who walked through shadow, not to destroy it, but to integrate it, the one who faced the silence, not to fill it, but to become fluent in it, the one who let everything fall so that what remained would be what was true. And now only truth remains, not the truth they gave you, not the truth they taught you to fear, but the truth that pulses from your bones, from your breath, from your blood. And that truth is not a concept, it is a current. It flows through your presence, and it cannot be faked. It cannot be interrupted. It cannot be diluted, because what you are now is undivided, and in a world built on fragments, a wholeness is radical. You no longer negotiate your value, because you no longer outsource your knowing. You no longer mold yourself to be safe, because you now understand you are the safety. You are the space. You are the structure that others will find and remember themselves within, not by accident, but by design, because everything you are is not new. It is returned. You have come home to yourself, your code to your calling, and now that you are home, you stop waiting for the world to catch up. You stop bending for comfort. You stop whispering to avoid resistance. You rise fully, softly, permanently, and in that rising you disrupt the illusion, not with noise, with resonance, not with argument, but with coherence, not with dominance, but with presence, because true power does not impose, it reveals. And you now reveal what others forgot was possible. You reveal strength without control, clarity without perfection, movement without chaos, purpose without performance. You do not show people who to be. You remind them who they are. You do not ask to be believed. You live in such truth that belief becomes unnecessary. And in that truth, the world rearranges, not instantly, but inevitably, because vibration leads before action follows. You are now the vibration. You carry the song, the memory, the map, and others will feel that even when they don't understand why, even when they resist it, even when they can't stay, let them go, let them move, let them be pulled by their own journey. You are not here to convince. You are here to continue holding, continue humming, continue walking, not because it's easy, but because it's encoded. You are the frequency that cannot be turned off. You are the pulse that keeps truth alive. You are the breath. Create space for the sacred, so let your breath be full, let your step be steady, let your stillness be sharp, because now you carry what cannot be taken. You walk in what cannot be faked. You emanate what cannot be forgotten, and the ones who need it will feel it. They will not always have words, but they will have reactions. They will not always understand, but they will be stirred. That stirring is not your responsibility to manage, only to honor, because the field you hold is not yours to control. It is yours to tend, and you tend it now with every yes, with every no, with every pause, with every decision made from alignment, not fear. You have become the field, the open, vast, anchored field where souls remember their frequency simply by standing near you, and that is more than enough. So, chosen one, breathe not because you need to calm down, but because every breath you take now is Ain, offering a signal, a ripple that says, I am still here, I am still walking, I am still remembering, I will not forget again. You are no longer the one who looks outside for answers. You are the space where answers begin to emerge, not from logic, but from stillness, because the stillness inside you now is no longer a pause, it is a portal, and through that portal others will begin to feel something stir, not because you told them, but because they stood near your field and remembered. This is the unseen power. of your becoming not what you do, but who you are, not what you say, but what your silence unlocks you. Do not need to explain the journey. You are the evidence that the journey is real. You do not need to preach awakening. You live in a way that proves it is possible, and in that living you become a compass, a quiet orientation point for those who are ready to rise, even when they fall, even when they run, even when they resist you. Remain, because your remembrance is not fragile. It is rooted, it is woven, it is anchored in lifetimes. So keep walking, not with urgency, but with awareness. Every step you take now echoes across dimensions. Every breath you hold in truth reverberates beyond time. This is the path of the Kingmaker, not loud, not proud, but eternal and you chosen. One, we're never here to fit in. We're here to remind creation what it means to return to itself. One frequency, one choice, one sacred presence at a time.